when we left off. Dumbo was in serious trouble. "A star, huh?" screamed the ringmaster. "You're nothing but a bungling clown. And since that's all you're good for, that's exactly what you'll be." Dumbo's face was painted, and he was forced to stand in the ring waving a little flag. Night after night, Dumbo was forced to play the fool as clowns threw cream pies in his face while the audience laughed and jeered. One day, the clowns came up with a new act for Dumbo. A large house was erected with a make-believe fire. At the very top was Dumbo, dressed as a big baby in a bonnet. Dressed as firemen, the clowns ran around frantically waving fire hoses and squirting everything. One clown held up a tiny ladder. "Do you think this is long enough?" he asked as the audience roared with laughter. "That ladder is much too short," shouted one of the clowns. "The baby will have to jump." "Jump, baby, we'll catch you," screamed the firemen, who were holding a safety net. Dumbo looked down, shaking with fright. It was a long way down, and the net didn't look very strong. The fumes from the make-believe fire hurt his eyes. The audience began to chant, "Jump! Jump!" Dumbo closed his eyes and leaped into the air. His ears flapped out behind him. Dumbo opened his eyes and saw the net below him. But his ordeal wasn't over. The net tore under his weight, and Dumbo fell into a tub of water, making a big splash. The audience roared with laughter at the sight of the big, wet baby. Soon the laughter turned into applause, but the clowns alone took their bows. Ashamed and still soaking, Dumbo slunk off to a corner. He had never felt so miserable in his life. Timothy Mouse found Dumbo shivering in the corner. "What you need is a good rub-down, and you'll be in shape in no time," said Timothy, taking up a sponge and scrubbing off the makeup. "Cheer up, Dumbo, I've got some good news for you. I found out where they're keeping your mother. Tonight at midnight, I'll take you to her." And before Dumbo knew it, Timothy was gone. That night, as the town clocks struck midnight, Mrs. Jumbo heard a noise outside her cell. She turned her head and saw a little trunk sticking through the bars. "Dumbo, is that you?" she whispered, moving slowly towards the door. Enormous balls and chains were attached to her legs, making it difficult to move. "Wait there, I'm coming," she said, as she dragged the heavy balls, trying to make as little noise as possible. Mrs. Jumbo slid her trunk between the bars and touched Dumbo. Her eyes filled with tears. "You've grown since I saw you last," she said, cradling Dumbo in her trunk. "And you smell nice and sweet. Thank goodness someone is looking after you." Rocking Dumbo gently, she began to sing a lullaby. After some time, Timothy appeared and whispered to Dumbo that it was time to go. Dumbo reluctantly said good night to his mother and left with Timothy. As they neared the circus tent, Dumbo and Timothy heard shrieks of laughter and the popping of champagne corks. The noise was coming from the clown's tent. They were celebrating the success of their act. "Did you catch the look on that little idiot's face when he fell into the water?" asked one of the clowns, collapsing in a fit of giggles. "Tomorrow we'll make the house taller. That will make an even bigger splash," said another clown. Just then, one of the champagne bottles fell through the flap and into a pail outside the tent. The clowns were too drunk to notice. "Come on, Dumbo," said Timothy. "You deserve the champagne as much as they do. Let's drink a toast to your great future." Dumbo plunged his trunk into the pail and took a great gulp. In his excitement, Timothy pitched over and fell into the pail. The champagne began to take effect. Dumbo slumped on the ground and began blowing bubbles. while Timothy giggled and sang. Dumbo's eyelids began to feel heavy, and soon he was fast asleep, with strange shapes floating in his dreams. Pink and purple elephants danced and performed tricks. Dumbo had the sensation that he was flying. He could even hear birds. Early next morning, a gang of crows gathered around the sleeping Dumbo and Timothy. "Well, yeah, look at that giant. Never thought I'd see the day when elephants lived in trees," exclaimed a cigar-smoking crow. "What I want to know," said one of the other crows, "is how did he get up here?" "How do you think he got up here?" "He flew!" cried the chief crow. "Flew?" shouted the others. "Elephants can't fly." Dumbo was half asleep, smelled the cigar smoke, and thought he was dreaming. "Oh, not the clowns again," he murmured, rolling over and onto his side. But Dumbo was not dreaming, and in turning over, he lost his balance and began to follow the tree. It was too late to grab onto the branches. Down he went, landing in a stream with an enormous splash. Timothy, too, came spilling out of the tree and landed with a little tiny plop in the stream. The sight of Dumbo and Timothy falling into the stream was too much for the crows, and bursting with laughter, they began to sing. "Did you ever see an elephant fly?" sang Dandy Crow. "Well, I've seen a horse fly," said the Preacher Crow. "I've seen a peanut stand and heard a rubber band. I've seen a needle that winked its eye. I've seen a front porch swing. I heard a diamond ring. But I ain't never seen an elephant fly. But I ain't never seen an elephant fly." But Timothy was not amused. "What's so funny about a poor little elephant falling out of a tree?" he demanded. Then suddenly he stopped and scratched his head. How did he get up into that tree? He wondered aloud. The crows all spoke at once. "He flew." "Flew!" Timothy shouted, turning to look at Dumbo in amazement. Dumbo blinked his eyes and just stared at the crows. Dumbo remembered his dream and how he had felt as if he was flying. That was only a dream. "There's only one way to find out if he can fly, and that's to try," suggested the wise old crow. "Why not?" said Timothy. "I always said you were special. Come on, Dumbo, let's give it a try." Dumbo was not as confident as his friend. He'd had too many falls lately. He wasn't eager to take another. "Here, take this magic feather," said the wise crow. "There's a cliff nearby. He can jump from there." When they reached the cliff, Dumbo took one look down and began to back away. The crows decided that a friendly push was needed. Together they gave a shove, yelling, "Heave-ho, off you go!" Dumbo closed his eyes and began to flap his ears with all his might, and instead of falling through the air, he began to float. Timothy gave a shout of delight. "I knew you could do it! Look, we're flying!" Dumbo opened one eye and then the other. Timothy was right. He wasn't falling. He was gliding like a bird. Dumbo was overjoyed. This was exactly like his dream. He dived and swooped over the trees and houses. His ears spread like wings, enabled him to turn left or right, to go up or down. Never had he felt so free. Timothy began chattering away. "Just wait until the others see you. Oh, Dumbo, I just knew you were headed for big things. But we mustn't let the others know just yet. Wait until tonight. We'll give them a big surprise." During the circus performance later that day, Dumbo went through the jumping baby routine with Timothy perched on his hat. The clowns had made the burning house even taller. They were looking forward to the enormous splash that Dumbo would make when he fell into the tub. "Go on, jump!" they yelled. This time, Dumbo was not afraid. He was carrying his magic feather. Dumbo jumped into the air, but in his excitement, he dropped the feather. Frozen with fear, he began to fall, but Timothy shouted, "That feather isn't magic. You don't need it to fly, Dumbo. You can fly all by yourself." Hearing Timothy's words, Dumbo spread his ears and flapped them with all his might. Just as he was within a few feet of the safety net, he changed direction. Instead of plunging into the water, he soared up toward the ceiling of the tent. Not a peep could be heard from the crowd. They all seemed to be holding their breath. The only sound was that of Dumbo's ears flapping as he spun and soared around the big top. Finally recovering from their shock, the audience began to applaud. Never had they seen anything so spectacular as an elephant flying. Dumbo decided to have some fun and began doing nosedives over the clowns and ringmaster. The audience roared with laughter, but this time at the clowns, not Dumbo. The terrified ringmaster jumped headfirst into a tub of water, and Dumbo had his revenge. Thunderous applause rang in Dumbo's ears as he took his bow in the center ring. Now he was the star of the circus. Dumbo became an overnight sensation. Every newspaper in the land carried his picture on the front page. From the Eskimos in Alaska to the Aborigines in Australia, Dumbo's fame was known to all. In each new town and village that the circus passed, it was Dumbo who drew the crowds. The ringmaster never stopped boasting about his new star, shouting, "The greatest, the most earth-shaking, breathtaking, fantastical event, Dumbo the Flying Elephant!" Every morning, high above the circus tents, a small figure could be seen soaring about the sky. It was Dumbo practicing his act. With Timothy the Mouse in his cap, he performed nosedives, spirals, loop-the-loops, spins, rolls, and landings, all with his mother proudly watching from a place of honor. Below, the other elephants looked on with pride. They had quickly changed their attitude towards the little imbecile. "He's going to go far, that little one," said one of the elephants. "I always said that he was special," said another. "No, I was the first to say that," said yet another, and they would argue on and on. Woo-woo! Chugga-chugga, chugga-chugga. Casey Jones Jr. tooted his whistle with joy between towns. He was very proud of his passenger, Dumbo the Flying Elephant. The end.